But Jesus ain't alive, is he? So I don't know. Maybe he could come back from the dead. I don't know.
And openly talk about God, right. and no one goes, what is God? What are you saying?
Clearly, Jesus loves me the most. Seriously. So nice. So nice.
From ancient scrolls to modern headlines, the stories echo the same chilling warning. Mocking the divine is a dangerous game. Countless individuals have dared to test this ancient wisdom, only to face swift and devastating consequences. Join us as we delve into the terrifying tales of those who mocked God and experienced instant retribution. Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor, the brash Irish MMA fighter, learned a harsh lesson about challenging the Almighty. In a moment of arrogance, McGregor claimed he could defeat Jesus Christ in a fight, a statement that would haunt him. McGregor rose to fame in the UFC with his fast strikes, confidence, and trash-talking. In a 2016 TMZ Sports interview, when asked how he would fare against Jesus, McGregor responded, "There's not a man alive that can beat me, but Jesus ain't alive, so I don't know. Maybe he can come back from the dead. I'd still whoop his ass." The comments sparked backlash, with Christians denouncing McGregor's blasphemy. Some suggested he would face divine retribution. Months later, McGregor faced Nate Diaz at UFC. Despite being favored, McGregor was outmatched. Diaz submitted him with a rear-naked choke in the second round, handing McGregor his first UFC loss. The defeat humbled McGregor, who had seemed invincible. Many saw the loss as divine intervention, punishing McGregor's disrespect towards Jesus. The fighter, once boasting invincibility, was brought low by a man he underestimated and a power he mocked. McGregor later admitted his ego got the best of him, acknowledging his mistake and the price he paid for it. Heather McDonald. Heather McDonald, the actress and comedian known for her biting wit and irreverent humor, experienced a chilling moment of instant regret when mocking God goes terribly wrong. During a stand-up comedy routine in Tempe, Arizona, McDonald made a flippant comment about Jesus, a jest that some believe triggered a terrifying incident that left her questioning the boundaries of humor and faith. Born in Southern California in 1970, McDonald first gained fame as a writer and performer on the popular E! series Chelsea Lately, where her quick wit and sharp tongue made her a standout among the show's ensemble cast. She later parlayed her success into a thriving career as a stand-up comedian and podcaster, known for her fearless and often controversial material. But during a performance at the Tempe Improv in February 2022, McDonald crossed a line that many of her fans found unforgivable. While discussing her experience with COVID-19, the comedian joked that Jesus must love her the most because she was vaccinated and still got her period. The comment, which was intended as a playful jab at the notion of divine favoritism, was met with a mix of laughter and gasps from the audience. But just seconds after making the joke, McDonald suddenly collapsed on stage, hitting her head on the floor and losing consciousness. The incident, which was captured on video by an audience member, quickly went viral and sparked a heated debate about the power of words and the consequences of blasphemy. Some saw McDonald's collapse as a clear sign of divine retribution, a warning from God that she had crossed a line with her irreverent humor. Others dismissed the incident as a simple case of fainting, brought on by the stress and exhaustion of performing. But for those who believe in the power of the divine, the timing of McDonald's collapse was too coincidental to ignore. John Lennon. John Lennon, one of the most iconic and influential figures of the 20th century, is best known as a founding member of the legendary band The Beatles. With his musical genius and rebellious spirit, Lennon achieved unparalleled success and adoration from fans worldwide. However, his controversial statements about religion would ultimately lead to a tragic end. Born in 1940 in Liverpool, England, Lennon rose to prominence as part of the Beatles, a band that revolutionized the music industry and captured the hearts of millions. Despite his immense popularity and influence, Lennon was known for his disdain towards organized religion and belief in God. In a now infamous interview with the London Evening Standard in March 1966, Lennon made a statement that would ignite a firestorm of controversy. He claimed that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus, going on to say that Christianity was in decline and that rock music would outlast the religion. The backlash was swift and severe, particularly in the United States. Many saw Lennon's words as blasphemous and an attack on their deeply held religious beliefs. Beatles records were publicly burned, radio stations banned their music, and death threats poured in. The controversy overshadowed the band's ongoing US tour and cast a dark shadow over their immense success. Lennon attempted to clarify his comments, stating that he was not comparing himself to Christ, but rather commenting on the declining influence of Christianity. However, the damage had been done, and the incident would have far-reaching consequences. Tragically, on December 8, 1980, John Lennon was shot 6 times by Mark David Chapman, a deranged fan who had become obsessed with the singer. Many have speculated that Lennon's controversial statements about religion may have played a role in Chapman's motives. XXXTentacion. XXXTentacion, a rising hip-hop star, met a tragic end after challenging the divine. The rapper, known for raw lyrics and controversy, made a bold proclamation seen as an affront to God. His untimely death months later led some to believe he paid the price for his hubris. XXXTentacion rose to fame in the late 2010s with hit singles and a devoted following. His music tackled themes of depression, violence, and personal struggle. However, his career was marked by legal troubles and criticism for violent behavior and misogynistic lyrics. In a 2017 XXL magazine interview, XXXTentacion made a statement that would define his legacy. When asked about his religious beliefs, he responded, "If I'm gonna die or be a sacrifice, I want to make sure my life made at least 5 million kids happy, or they found answers or resolve in my life, regardless of the negative around my name." He added, "I don't believe in God. I saw a video where God didn't exist. I saw evolution, and it opened my mind. I'm not religious. If anything happens to me, I want people to know I've been honest with them." On June 18, 2018, just months after the interview, XXXTentacion was shot and killed during a robbery in Florida. He was 20 years old. Some saw his murder as a consequence of his blasphemous words and rejection of God. They pointed to his statement about making 5 million kids happy as evidence of his arrogance and desire to elevate himself to deity status. By denying God and claiming he could bring happiness to millions, XXXTentacion had sealed his fate. Tancredo Neves's unfulfilled presidency. Tancredo Neves, a Brazilian politician who rose to the highest office in the land, learned the hard way that challenging the power of the Almighty can have devastating consequences. During his presidential campaign, Neves boldly declared that if he received 500,000 votes from his own party, not even God could remove him from the presidency. Born in 1910 in São João del Rei, Minas Gerais, Neves began his political career as a member of the Social Democratic Party. He served as a deputy in the state legislature and later as a federal deputy before being appointed as prime minister by President João Goulart in 1961. Although his tenure as prime minister was short-lived, Neves remained a prominent figure in Brazilian politics throughout the 1970s and early 1980s. In 1984, Neves was chosen as the presidential candidate for the Democratic Alliance, a coalition of opposition parties that sought to end the military dictatorship that had ruled Brazil for over 2 decades. To Neves's surprise and delight, he not only received the 500,000 votes he had asked for, but he went on to win the election with a staggering 480 electoral votes to his opponent's 180. It seemed that Neves was destined to become Brazil's first civilian president in over 20 years. But fate had other plans. Just one day before he was set to take office, Neves fell ill with a severe case of diverticulitis. He was rushed to a hospital in São Paulo, where he underwent multiple surgeries to try to save his life. For 38 agonizing days, Neves fought for his life as the nation watched and prayed for his recovery. Unfortunately, on April 21, 1985, just hours before he was set to be inaugurated as president, Tancredo Neves passed away at the age of 75. Neves' death sent shockwaves throughout Brazil and the world. Many saw it as a tragic twist of fate that had robbed the nation of a leader who had promised to bring about a new era of democracy and progress. Others, however, viewed Neves's untimely demise as a warning from on high, a divine retribution for his arrogant challenge to the power of God. The Titanic's unsinkable myth. The RMS Titanic, the largest and most luxurious ship of its time, was supposedly unsinkable. Its creators boasted of its advanced engineering and state-of-the-art safety features, claiming that even God himself could not sink the mighty vessel. However, history would soon prove that no ship is invincible, and the hubris of those who dared to challenge the power of the sea would lead to one of the greatest tragedies of the 20th century. Thomas Andrews, an Irish businessman and shipbuilder, was the man behind the Titanic. As the managing director of the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, Andrews was a brilliant engineer and visionary who had a passion for creating the biggest and best ships in the world. When tasked with designing the Titanic, Andrews threw himself into the project with gusto. He worked tirelessly to create a ship that would be the envy of the world, with lavish amenities and cutting-edge technology that would make it the safest and most comfortable vessel on the sea. However, Andrew's confidence in his creation would prove to be his downfall. When asked about the safety of the Titanic, he reportedly replied, "Not even God himself could sink this ship." On April 10th, 1912, the Titanic set sail from Southampton, England, on its maiden voyage to New York City. It carried 2,224 passengers and crew, including some of the wealthiest and most famous people of the time. For 4 days, the Titanic sailed smoothly across the Atlantic, its passengers enjoying the luxurious accommodations and breathtaking views. But on the night of April 14th, disaster struck. At around 11:40 p.m., the Titanic struck an iceberg that tore a gash in the ship's hull. Despite the advanced safety features that Andrews had designed, the damage was too severe, and the ship began to take on water at an alarming rate. As panic spread throughout the ship, Andrews worked frantically to assess the damage and try to find a way to save the vessel, but it was too late. The Titanic was doomed. In a final act of bravery, Andrews helped load women and children into the lifeboats, even as he knew that there were not enough boats to save everyone on board. He refused to leave the ship himself, instead choosing to go down with his creation. At 2:20 a.m. on April 15th, the Titanic finally slipped beneath the waves, taking with it the lives of more than 1,500 passengers and crew, including Thomas Andrews, the man who had dared to challenge the power of God and the sea. Lady Gaga's Judas Curse. Lady Gaga, the flamboyant pop icon known for her outrageous fashion choices and provocative performances, found herself at the center of a controversy that some believe was a direct result of her blasphemous behavior on stage. During a performance of her hit song, Judas, Gaga experienced a frightening and unexpected incident that left many questioning whether she had incurred the wrath of God. Born Stefani Joanne Angelina Germanotta in New York City in 1986, Lady Gaga rose to fame in the late 2000s with her unique blend of dance pop, avant-garde fashion, and shocking stage antics. She quickly became known for her boundary-pushing performances and her willingness to tackle controversial topics in her music. In 2011, Gaga released her second studio album, Born This Way, which included the single Judas. The song, which tells the story of a woman torn between her love for Jesus and her attraction to Judas, the disciple who betrayed him, was immediately met with criticism from religious groups who saw it as blasphemous and disrespectful. But it was during a live performance of Judas that things took a truly frightening turn. As Gaga sang the lyrics, "I'm just a holy fool, oh baby, it's so cruel, but I'm still in love with Judas, baby," a piece of equipment hit right on her head while it was being taken out by the stage crew. The incident, which was captured on video and quickly went viral, left many fans and observers shocked and unsettled. Some saw it as a clear sign of divine retribution, a warning from God that Gaga had crossed a line with her blasphemous lyrics and behavior. Others dismissed the incident as a simple accident, a case mistake by a crew member, and nothing more. But for those who believe in the power of the divine, the timing of the mishap was too coincidental to ignore. Logan Paul. Logan Paul, the internet sensation known for his outrageous pranks and controversial content, found himself at the center of a firestorm after making disparaging comments about Christianity on his popular podcast. But what started as a foolish attempt at humor quickly turned into a series of unsettling events that left the young star questioning whether he had become the target of divine retribution. Born in Ohio in 1995, Logan Paul first gained fame on the now-defunct video platform Vine, where his short, comedic clips earned him millions of followers. He later transitioned to YouTube, where his vlogs, challenges, and stunts have garnered him a massive following and made him one of the most recognizable faces on the platform. But in a 2019 episode of his impulsive podcast, Paul crossed a line that many of his fans found unforgivable. During a discussion about religion, the YouTuber made a series of disparaging comments about Christianity, mocking the faith and those who follow it. The backlash was swift and severe, with fans and critics alike calling out Paul for his insensitive and offensive remarks. Many saw his comments as a direct attack on their deeply held beliefs, and they demanded an apology and a show of contrition from the young star. At first, Paul was defiant, brushing off the criticism and doubling down on his controversial stance. But as the backlash continued to grow, he began to experience a series of unsettling events that left him questioning whether he had become the target of something much more powerful than mere online outrage. In the days following the podcast, Paul claimed to have experienced a string of misfortunes, from mysterious illnesses to equipment malfunctions to canceled events. He even claimed to have been visited by a ghostly apparition in his home, an experience that left him shaken and unnerved. As the strange occurrences continued to mount, Paul began to wonder whether he had incurred the wrath of God himself. He took to social media to issue a public apology, expressing regret for his comments and vowing to be more mindful of the impact his words could have on others. But for some, the damage was done. Paul's comments struck a nerve with many who saw them as a direct attack on their faith, and his apology was seen as too little, too late. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. There are many cases of instant regret when mocking God goes terribly wrong. But surprisingly, one individual got this instant regret by mocking the Pope. Recently, when AI-generated images started popping up, an anonymous user began creating AI images of the Pope. Some found them humorous, like wearing a Balenciaga jacket, but others were disrespectful, like the Pope falling from a chair or breakdancing. He received backlash, and surprisingly, the following day, he removed the photos and posted on social media that he had been involved in a car accident. He was safe, but now he believes in instant karma. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments. Highway to Hell. Bon Scott, the former lead vocalist of the legendary rock band AC/DC, lived a life of excess and rebellion that ultimately led to his tragic and untimely demise. Born Ronald Belford Scott in Scotland in 1946, he moved with his family to Australia at the age of 6. Scott's distinctive voice and magnetic stage presence helped propel AC/DC to international stardom, but his hard-living lifestyle and reckless behavior would catch up with him in the most devastating way imaginable. In 1979, AC/DC released their album Highway to Hell, which would go on to become one of the most iconic and influential records in the history of rock music. The title track, with its driving beat and rebellious lyrics, became an instant classic and a staple of the band's live shows. In the song, Scott defiantly sings, "Don't stop me, I'm going down all the way, down the highway to hell." It was a bold and provocative statement, one that seemed to encapsulate the singer's wild and unrestrained approach to life. But just a few short months after the release of Highway to Hell, Scott's reckless lifestyle would catch up with him in the most tragic way possible. On February 19, 1980, the singer was found dead in the backseat of a friend's car in London, having choked on his own vomit after a night of heavy drinking. The news of Scott's death sent shockwaves through the music world, and fans around the globe mourned the loss of one of rock's most iconic and beloved frontmen. Many saw his untimely demise as a cautionary tale about the dangers of living life in the fast lane and the consequences of tempting fate with reckless behavior. Some even pointed to the lyrics of Highway to Hell as a chilling premonition of Scott's fate, a warning that had gone unheeded until it was too late. The song's themes of rebellion and defiance in the face of authority seemed to take on a new and haunting meaning in the wake of the singer's death. Carnival and catastrophe. Brazil is famous for its vibrant carnival celebrations and extravagant parades that showcase the country's rich culture and traditions. However, in recent years, some of these parades have taken a darker turn, featuring shocking displays of blasphemy and mockery towards Jesus Christ, a revered figure in Christianity. During the 2019 Carnival festivities, one parade float depicted a figure dressed as Satan, beating and dragging a representation of Jesus, while onlookers cheered on the disturbing spectacle. Another float in 2023 featured a massive doll meant to represent the devil himself, further highlighting the growing trend of religious disrespect in these events. Many faithful believers were outraged by these blatant acts of sacrilege, viewing them as a direct affront to God and a sign of the declining moral values in society. They argued that such displays crossed the line from artistic expression to outright blasphemy, and that there would be consequences for those who dared to mock the divine. Their warnings proved to be prophetic when, in the years following these controversial parades, Brazil was struck by a series of devastating natural disasters. In February 2023, the country experienced the largest rainfall event in its recorded history, with the torrential downpour causing catastrophic landslides and flash floods that claimed numerous lives and left a trail of destruction in its wake. Some saw these tragedies as a clear manifestation of God's wrath. They pointed to the timing and severity of the disasters as evidence that Brazil had incurred the anger of the Almighty and that the country was now paying the price for its transgressions. Christopher Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens, a renowned British-American author, journalist, and public intellectual, built a career on his scathing critiques of religion and his unwavering commitment to atheism. Known for his razor-sharp wit and unapologetic stance against faith, Hitchens became one of the most prominent and controversial figures in the secular movement. Born in Portsmouth, England in 1949, Hitchens was a prolific writer, penning numerous books and essays on a wide range of topics, from politics to literature. However, it was his 2007 work, God Is Not Great: How Religion Poisons Everything, that cemented his reputation as a fierce critic of religion. In his book and public appearances, Hitchens argued that religion was not only irrational, but actively harmful to society. He contended that religious belief was incompatible with reason, science, and progress, and that it had been responsible for countless atrocities throughout history.
If it is believed that without religion there could be no...
Hitchens was unrelenting in his criticism of all faiths, from Christianity and Islam to Hinduism and Buddhism. As an anti-theist, Hitchens went beyond mere atheism, actively advocating against the influence of religion in public life. He engaged in high-profile debates with religious leaders and scholars, always ready with a biting retort or devastating argument. His intellect and rhetorical prowess made him a formidable opponent and a sought-after speaker. However, in June 2010, Hitchens received a grim diagnosis: esophageal cancer. The disease progressed rapidly, and he underwent grueling treatments in an attempt to prolong his life. Throughout his illness, Hitchens continued to write and speak out against religion, never wavering in his convictions. Some saw Hitchens' fate as a form of divine retribution, arguing that his lifelong campaign against God had brought about his untimely demise. Others viewed it as a tragic irony that a man who had dedicated his life to the pursuit of truth and reason would be struck down by a merciless disease. On December 15, 2011, at the age of 62, Christopher Hitchens succumbed to pneumonia, a complication of his cancer. His death was mourned by friends and adversaries alike, who recognized the immense impact he had had on intellectual discourse. Madalyn Murray O'Hair. Madalyn Murray O'Hair, synonymous with militant atheism and the fight against religion in America, met a tragic end after a lifetime of mocking God and challenging faith in public life. Born in 1919, O'Hair rejected God from an early age, embracing atheism and secularism. As an adult, she became a vocal activist for the separation of church and state, arguing that religion had no place in government or public institutions. O'Hair's most famous battle was against prayer in public schools. In 1960, she filed a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of Bible reading and prayer in Baltimore public schools. The case, Murray versus Curlett, went to the Supreme Court, where it was consolidated with Abington School District versus Schempp. In a landmark 1963 decision, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of O'Hair, declaring that state-mandated prayer and Bible reading in public schools violated the First Amendment. The ruling sent shockwaves through the nation, with many Christians seeing it as an attack on their faith. O'Hair went on to found the American Atheists Organization, becoming a powerful voice for the secular movement.
I do not have the support of one person in the entire nation.
She continued to challenge religious practices, filing lawsuits and making media appearances. Her abrasive style and unapologetic atheism earned her the title of the most hated woman in America. In 1995, O'Hair, her son John, and granddaughter Robin mysteriously disappeared amidst financial disputes and legal troubles. It wasn't until 2001 that their dismembered and charred remains were discovered on a remote Texas ranch, buried in shallow graves. They had been kidnapped, robbed, and brutally murdered by former employees. The irony of O'Hair's fate was not lost on many who saw this as divine retribution for her lifetime of blasphemy and disrespect towards God. Others saw it as a reflection of the unpredictable nature of life and the potential impact of our actions. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, the iconic Hollywood actress, lived a life that was as tragic as it was glamorous. Despite her fame and fortune, Monroe struggled with addiction, depression, and a deep sense of emptiness that she sought to fill with men, drugs, and alcohol. But it was her disdain for religion and rejection of God that would ultimately lead to her downfall. Born Norma Jean Mortensen in Los Angeles in 1926, Monroe had a difficult childhood marked by poverty, abuse, and abandonment. She was raised in a series of foster homes and orphanages, never knowing the love and stability of a traditional family. Despite her troubled upbringing, Monroe rose to fame in the 1950s as a model and actress, captivating audiences with her beauty, charm, and undeniable allure.
And if you loved me at all, You'd feel sorry for the terrible troubles I've been through.
Monroe starred in films like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and The 7-Year Itch, becoming one of the most popular and highest-paid actresses of her time. But behind the glamorous facade, she was a deeply troubled woman, struggling with depression, anxiety, and insomnia. She turned to drugs and alcohol to cope with her inner demons. Monroe also had a complicated relationship with religion and spirituality. Despite being raised in a Christian household, she rejected the idea of God and organized religion, viewing it as a crutch for the weak and a tool of oppression. In 1953, Monroe was visited by the renowned evangelist Billy Graham, who had come to Los Angeles to preach a series of revival meetings. Graham was invited to meet the actress in hopes of bringing her to Christ. However, Monroe was not receptive to Graham's message. When he told her that the Spirit of God had sent him to preach to her, she reportedly replied, "I don't need your Jesus." Just 1 week after her meeting with Graham, Monroe was found dead in her Los Angeles home, the victim of an apparent drug overdose at the age of 36. The circumstances surrounding Monroe's death have been the subject of much speculation and conspiracy theories over the years. But regardless of the cause, her untimely demise was a tragic end to a life that had been marked by so much pain and turmoil. Some viewed her death as a consequence of her rejection of God, while others saw it as a result of the pressures of fame and her internal struggles. Also, some believe any claims suggesting she spoke against Jesus were simply propaganda spread to tarnish her image, and that she never truly expressed such sentiments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.